Oh boy.
Oh,
Jackie.
Coral, we're live. Oh my God. Everyone can see this. Wow. How exciting.
Oh my God, Jackie. It was a lie. We don't have any guests. It's just us talking to each other.
It's just us. We lied. Andrew and Karen, we don't know who they are. We were hoping by, putting that announcement out that they would agree to do this, but
yeah, have you met them? I've never met them.
I don't even really know who they are, to be quite honest.
Somebody's trying to FaceTime me. That's not great. That's not great.
That's not great.
Cool. That was Sasha. So should we just tell
roll out the red carpet?
What this is?
Yeah.
This is a great little plan that we had, and now we're doing live, which seems a bit scary, but it's going to be awesome. Yeah. And what we wanted to do is, have some down-to-earth chats, demystify the business a little bit, and have some amazing guests come in. Oh, Sasha's apologized for FaceTiming me. That's great. And basically what we want to do is open this up to questions. So we know that it's a little bit weird to comment on the YouTube Live or the Facebook Live as it's going, because it's a bit more sort of permanent. But, we're hoping that people will do that. So if anybody wants to shoot us a little comment now saying, I'm here, hooray, it's happening, that'd be great. And if anybody wants to private message the Aching Heart Films Facebook account, if it's something you don't feel as comfortable sharing, or if you, if you want to do it there, Jackie and I are going to check and take your questions there. What do you think, Jackie?
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. And I'm so excited to get started and hear what people have to say.
I know, it's great. So let's bring in our first guest. So this is the one about first features. So our friends who are going to jump in here, we have Karen and we have Andrew. No warning, just bringing them in. Popping right up, pop. Amazing. Welcome, you guys. Hooray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for showering. Thank you for, paying your Wi-Fi bill. For doing this?
I've done neither, but I appreciate that that's where things are still at.
Yeah.
Andrew just gets cut off this second.
Yeah.
Oh, so many people are saying hi to us. It's so nice.
Yay. Hi, guys.
Hey, hi, everybody. So we're going to start this off with, I think, the most important question of the day. Filmforge.biz. Tell me about that choice. Is .edu was taken, or?
I mean,
that's my only joke. Hello, thanks. I'm here all week. Goodbye.
Filmforge.biz has been around since like 2008, I think. There is some other guy who made a company called Filmforge, and yet like he did a weird like George Bush like puppeteer music video once. It's a long story.
Oh no.
And his other company name is Laser Cooled, but they had filmforge.com. He didn't make it, but he has held on to the rights to filmforge.com for over a decade.
Oh, no.
And he renews them every single year. I have got like the auto renew, let me know if it like comes free. And every year Laser Cooled comes in there and renews the defunct filmforge.com. So we had filmforge.biz because we were a business and I didn't know anything about anything. And I was like, that sounds legitimate. And now I'm still living to regret it, Coral. So thank you.
What's funny is that achenheart.com is owned by a dad garage band. They're called Your Party Band. I'll put the link up after. So that's why it's achenheartfilms.com. They play a lot of like fundraisers for like Karen, who has lupus and stuff.
Wow.
Not you, Karen. Yeah. Okay, that's great. So, all right, we're gonna kick Jackie out. Jackie's gonna go.
I'm gonna go. Well, just like that, I've been kicked out.
She's gonna go monitor the comments and
yes.
figure out. So everybody, talk to Jackie down
Yes,
there.
please send me your comments. I want to hear them.
She'll be
Tell me how
back.
good I look. Tell me how good everyone else looks as well. But also give me the best type of questions, your burning questions that you have for Karen and Andrew.
Yeah, so we'll bring her out to say your questions. So we'll just pop her back in. She's gonna pop out and then she's gonna pop back in. Bye. So here's my question for you, because I'm also gonna pop away sometimes. Maybe, I don't know, might do it. So you two, how did you find each other in this crazy, crazy world that we live in here? Tell the long version.
We met at a party.
Did you?
Truly, we did. We met at for those of us who are Ryerson University alum, we met at the Rough after party. So there's a film festival that the Ryerson School of Image Arts hosts every year, and Andrew and I met at not his house. It was a Ryerson like party house. It was Steve Whitehead, if anybody knows.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Steve Whitehead's house. We met there. And at the time, Andrew had another producing partner, but they were just, they'd been just starting up their production company, Film Forge. And
.biz.
Yeah. And we're very busy making world-class corporate videos and so on. And they needed the production manager type. So I came and started working with them. And then his producer very smartly realized that this is not a business to be in. And so he decided to become like a vegan, personal trainer or something. And we're here together now forever.
Yeah, the first thing we worked on together creatively was a short that we did called We Ate the Children Last. And Karen came on she wasn't the lead producer on that, but she produced it. And so we really sort of just clicked really well. And she was so impressive and capable and everything. And so we just sort of started working together from there, which I think led to sort of the next year we did another short film together. And then we were doing, and by sort of like 2013, we'd done the Sleeping Giant short and had already sort of decided basically that we were going to sort of be like a partnership in this whole thing. And then the next year sort of went and shot the feature.
And so the feature came about, I imagine because of the short film's success, your previous short film's success?
It's actually a bit of an inversion of that. It was only ever intended to be a feature film.
Okay.
And we were going to go and shoot that one summer. Like we had a script ready. We were into telefilm, and like there was a lot of like the regional program was like, oh, will we or won't we finance? Spoiler alert: they did not give us any money, and we were already up there, and we'd started casting, and we'd found two of our ended up in the feature, and we decided to sort of like make some lemonade and to make a feature. And so we just pulled some pages of the script and kind of just like workshopped with the actors and did these, not really thinking that it would go anywhere at the time, the short. It was really just the freedom to like explore a process of working with these kids and the tone of it and see what it was like. But as the weird ways go, sometimes it gave us a lot of freedom. I think that we wouldn't have probably, I think if we didn't have that sort of failure and were able to make the short with complete freedom, there's no way we would have made the feature we did, because we got to really experiment and sort of hone in on it.
That's really interesting.
The film didn't even premiere at its first festival. Our last day, we were wrapping our very last shot after staying up all night. And I got an email from Danny Lennon, who was in Locarno, saying, you guys just won the jury prize for the short. And we'd never so we had no idea if people would like it at all at that point. So it was, yeah.
I think it really goes to show that there's no one way that needs to happen. You don't have to have a short film with the same name as your feature that goes and then it gets the things. And then, I think there's a lot of thoughts about, I have to figure out how this has been done before so I can do that, but I think that really goes to show there's no
I think we've certainly spent a lot of time, Karen and I, like chasing that idea of like the footsteps that other people have done, or thinking that there's like a linear path that if I just do this and then I can prove I do this, then somebody will give me that opportunity. And often it doesn't really happen that way. And you just end up sort of having to find ways to take the next plunge or the next step yourself each step along the way.
So how, who do you think was from the industry, like what was your first sort of champion of the film? Was there a fund? Was there something? Were there arts councils? Like what, there's always someone first in. And I often find, just having that stamp of approval in some way, is so key to just feeling like we can do this. Was that just yourselves going in and doing it, or was there something that came in that really kind of launched it?
The first formal supporter of the film was the Canada Council. So we received, and we had applied to the Canada Council with the same projects previously been rejected. So we kind of went and kept kicking these cans, trying to kind of make something stick. And the Canada Council came on board. They gave us a $60,000 grant for the feature in the early 2014. We shot the film the feature film we shot the summer of 2014. So they came on board, I don't know, February or March. And Andrew and I just said, we had gone through the process of making the short film the previous summer, and we had tried to make the feature film and failed that summer. So we just decided, once we received a notice about the Canada Council, that we would just make it happen. Like, we had to go into production that summer. No choice but to do it, kind of hell or high water. And we put some dates on a calendar, and those dates changed maybe by 2 weeks. It was really like important for us to establish a benchmark for that to take place, because I think when you think about a project as being sort of like a dream or like a something you imagine you want to do in the future, it's very easy to keep kicking the can further away and not actually kind of force yourself to like realize the project in actuality. And by really saying, we have $60,000, we know that isn't enough to make a feature film, but we know that we can kind of engineer the project to keep the costs as low as possible. And these are the different sort of irons we're going to have in the fire, financing wise, to try to line up the next thing, right? So we were like trying to apply for Ontario Arts Council funding. We were also still kind of eyeing telefilm from afar, being like, you're going to want us one day. Andrew and I took out, like adults, we took out a line of credit, and we were like, we're just going to pay with post on this line of credit. Don't do that. It's terrible.
Those questions are popping up a little bit too. Like, are there other options if you're not getting grants? Do you pay things yourself? Do you go into debt?
Definitely not on credit cards. I find the idea of like credit card films to be a very like insulting thing that like some very privileged people who have never had to put like on a high in like 20% interest on a credit card or something. Like, it's not a way to finance a film. Find a way. Like, if you're in that, I think if you're in that spot, you need to find a way to tell your story like in a like a different way, or you need to put it aside for the time being and find another story that you can do a little bit less. And for us, like in the case of Sleeping Giants specifically, we benefited from having less than we thought we were going to go and make that movie with like 1.5 or something, and it would have been a crew and a rigmarole and procedures and all these things, a process that really was actually pretty antithetical to the movie that we ended up making. And so I think if you can start to think about, okay, if not the story, or maybe the story and a retelling of it, how do I find a way to take advantage of the sort of the limitations that I have? How do I make that something that is a benefit and not a thorn in my side?
Do you have, you absolutely did that with this film, and it's such an accomplishment. It's amazing, and it's so moving, and it feels so full and well-rounded, and it's such a wonderful piece of cinema. So congratulations on that. But how do you think that played out practically for you? The budget limitations, it's equal. This is sort of extra value that we got that we didn't we maybe wouldn't have had with more money?
I think it's probably, I mean, it does, like a lot of it certainly comes down to process. So it's like, well, okay, we can't have a big crew. So what are the advantages of a small crew? Well, agility, right? Like it's, you know, sometimes with a bigger crew, especially if it's big and not highly experienced, it's like steering the Titanic. Like you want to do things differently, but it's just like, okay, no, I see an iceberg, but we're kind of screwed now. And
sorry to interrupt you, but how big was the crew? Someone was asking. That's a great question. How many were you there usually shooting?
It was 11 people, I believe.
Okay.
And one of them was like somebody who just like cooked meals for us and like took care of us basically.
Right.
That's God bless her. Like it was like summer camp vibes. We were all sort of like staying like in like bunking together in cottages and like this weird hostel up the road and doing whatever. But that agility, like for our story, which was a sort of tracking the spontaneous youth and like the impetuousness and all of that allowed us to not be locked into a setup. And if the kids go and climb a fence, all of a sudden it's like, you're driving our camera. Oh, we thought we were shooting that. We're going to go over here and we're going to discover things. And I think discovery is a huge thing that lower budget expectations and crew size and everything can allow you in the process. It's like, you can sort of dare to be a bit more free to be like, okay, I know we came here today to do this, but isn't this kind of interesting? And as long as you have your core team, like we had, like, you know, like I think 4 of us really, like the James Atwater, James Klopko, I mean, and Karen and myself, we were this like little group that we could keep track of. Are we still telling our story? Are we still like, you know, and if so, then we sort of, it gave us that freedom that there's no way we would have had if it was like done like a normal film.
Yeah, that's great. And there's a bunch of questions coming in that people had asked me earlier too, which is a little bit of as a company, what do you look for when you're choosing your projects and that kind of thing. But we'll just keep talking a little bit about production, and then I will get to those because I think those are great questions. I wanted to ask one more thing about the production, which is working with non-actors. I think some of this series and the people that are interested in these ideas is, about expanding different types of people that we see on screen. And sometimes that will come with the added thing that potentially they're not as experienced actors. So I think your experience, both of you, with going through this, with some discoveries, as you call them, which they're all fantastic in the film. Can you give any pointers to working with on a logistical and production side, as well as creatively working with people who are potentially new to acting or have a bit less experience or brand new to acting?
Kira, do you want to speak to that at all? Or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've done many films now with what we kind of call non-actors, but I don't know if that's really fair to call them non-actors. I mean, basically, when we say that, we mean like a human being who isn't formally trained as an actor, or has maybe not a lot of professional experience working in film and television. And I think that what comes with training is like a sort of methodology for managing, emotions and managing the stress of the job, and also like obviously like a performance, learning how to shoot a performance and a character. So when you're working with people who don't have that training or experience, you're gonna go through the learning process with them. And I think with specifically Sleeping Giant, we're working with youth, with teenagers, and that's its own universe of experience. That we kind of mutually enter into together. Certainly the lines between like a professional relationship and a personal relationship become quite blurred. And just where Andrew and I were at in our lives at the time we made that movie, we were young, but we weren't in our teens. So we took on, I would say, like sort of like a parental role in their summer while we were all shooting together. And to be honest, we're all still in touch, obviously not nearly as much, but the relationship continues for a long time afterwards. So of course, when you're working with people who don't have that sort of ability to compartmentalize or like manage their emotions as it relates to the role of playing, a character in a film. That's just really tough. And so we did our very best to kind of help them navigate that. And because it was 3 teenage boys who were the sort of core cast of the film, they had their own interpersonal relationships that we had to help, manage them through in a healthy way, which, you can tell from seeing them in the film that they're scoundrels. So we got to.
How far, Andrew, how far did they stray from their, like, who they are as people into these characters?
I think they were playing character. I actually remember Nick Cividino, who plays Nate in the short film. He's like mouthy and mean and everything. And then the next summer, he was like, "This is actually really tough because like you're asking me to be the person that I've spent the last year trying not to be more like, So I think that they all were drawing on something in their lives, but also there were characters on a page that they were able to tap into. So I think it was definitely somewhere in between. And I think on the technical side of like how you get performances in those situations, I think 2 things are really helpful. One is if you can, doing rehearsals and finding ways to give yourself some space to rewrite, even if it's that morning, like bringing people's voices, their own voices into it, so that you can hear in a line reading if somebody is like, that feels really written. And a great actor can make a professional actor can make a line feel much less written, and a non-professional can't. And so if you can find ways to allow them to bring their own voices in, like that bit of play is helpful. And then you just have to shoot the crap out of it. And like, we walked away with 70 hours of it for a feature film, right? With single camera.
Oh my God, crazy. Okay, so I just have to interrupt you because we have a surprise guest for you guys.
What?
Oh my God.
It's your friend and mine, Drew Lint.
Hey. What's up? How are you doing?
For our friends at home, Drew is a wonderful filmmaker that has worked with Karen and Andrew, and he's in Berlin, so I thought I'd bring him in to say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Drew.
Greetings from the future where it is nighttime.
Drew, you can say hi for a couple minutes. We're a very busy schedule right now, but I wanted to ask you.
I'm enjoying. It's fun to hear all this, the anecdotes. I'm just
right.
I feel like I can learn from these guys.
What was the worst thing about working with Karen and Andrew? No, just kidding.
The worst.
We can get into it.
I'm just kidding. No, don't. Sorry.
I wish you could spend more time together because it was a distance, like we're doing now, this long distance relationship.
Crazy. So Drew also just did a first feature, which was very successful. What was your biggest takeaway? This whole thing is about first features. Can you sum it in one thing? Sum it down? Sum it down? That's not a thing. You guys know what I mean.
Up, down. I mean, what's the difference? That's a great question. I mean, it's funny. I was just reading an article in Filmmaker magazine, an interview with Sofia Bogdanovich and Derek Campbell, where they were talking about MS Slavic 7. And I think the title, this is so funny that I'm reading, interviews that my friends give.
Yeah.
It's a great read. Check it out. The title I thought was really good, and I'll paraphrase it and won't get it exactly, but Sophia said something along the lines of, no one's going to come knocking on your door and hire you to be an independent filmmaker. You have to will that to happen. You have to want that pretty badly. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from especially making a first feature is first features don't want to be made. You have to make them be made.
That's wonderful. That's great, Drew. Now in German.
Great. I'm recovering from the trauma.
I know.
Actually,
we moved out of the country to be away from it.
With Drew's film, we were just so totally fucked because that was essentially not eligible for any type of actual soft money.
Nice.
Fell neatly between all of the cracks that one film could fall between. We weren't eligible for, Canadian content status, so we couldn't do telecom, and we couldn't really use Arts Council money. But simultaneously, we tried to, because we shot it in Berlin, so we were exploring the German, financing system, which we were like very unwelcome. No, go away.
Not you.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
it was a real clusterfuck to try to finance that movie. And of course, when that happens and you really aren't eligible for anything, you have no choice but to find individual humans who care about your project and want to champion it. And we were able to raise money, online to a certain extent, which was a really nice sort of like anchor to our financing, even though it wasn't like objectively a ton of money. And we were able to pull in a few investments in very small amounts from people who saw Drew's vision and thought that he was really talented and deserved to get a shot at making his first feature.
That's
and
great.
then, to be very honest, like both of us bled, like we just put our own money into the movie. And I can say that almost every film certainly all of the first features I've done that were micro budget first features. I'm actually working on a first feature right now that isn't a micro budget, which is like totally wild. But previous to this, I never got to take fees on these feature films that I produced. Drew and Andrew certainly didn't take fees on their first features. And in many cases, we were left with bills we had to pay. So, all of us had essentially side hustles to help cover costs that came up. And one like big takeaway I would say in terms of being, and I hate that this is even, a reality that we all have to face, but being really judicious with your own personal money and being very careful about when you put your money in and when you don't, and having kind of like rules around that, but also having, an income stream in your life that isn't independent filmmaking can help. And that doesn't mean it can't be within the sphere of film and television. I mean, I've worked as an assistant editor. I've worked as a producer's assistant. I've done editing corporate videos, like everything, right? So we've all done that. And that's sort of how we've weathered this growing pains process of our careers.
That's how filmforge.biz really thrived in the
right.
I never know. Okay, I got
Farmers of Ontario, baby.
kick
we
out
did a lot,
Drew.
yeah,
We're
we did
gonna
a
bring
lot of
Jackie
corporate
in.
video and that sort of stuff to like break like exactly just basically just to make money so that we could work for free on our own things.
Yeah, it's really important to talk about balance and sustainability. We'll do a whole show about that. Let's bring Jackie in. It doesn't work with 5 people. Let's see. Jackie, you're back.
Woo!
Jackie wants to ask you guys some stuff about pitching, and I'm going to kick Drew out to go back from whence he came.
Goodbye.
Hi, Drew.
Drew.
Thanks for doing this. You kept the surprise. You were awesome. Okay.
Hey. Yeah, we had some people asking about pitching, particularly to a production company like Filmforge. Could you give us a bit of insight as to what a successful pitch looks like? Maybe the stage of the stage in which the film is at, the funding that they may or may not already have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, often filmmakers, when they're starting out, will cold email, and not even just when they're starting out, even when they are advancing their careers, they'll cold email producers that they want to work with and maybe do like an elevator pitch in the body of an email or attach a lookbook or whatever. And often that is like we receive, and we're not unique in this way, a lot of producers receive a volume of these sorts of emails, all the time. And so it's very time intensive to kind of review all of that. And for a company like ours, where it's basically just the 2 of us plus Yona Strauss, our associate producer who's been working with us for the last few years. We've also had a CMPA, funded office assistant or office manager on and off over the last few years, but we're like a tiny, tiny company. So like man hours are a real issue for us because we just don't have a lot of bandwidth. And what has resulted is that we really don't have a lot of time to read through unsolicited pitches. But that said, I think it's always variable depending on the project and the filmmaker because, the status of your project that you dream of making, your first feature, is always sort of determined by who you surround yourself with and collaborate with. And if you are able to find a producer whose specific goals, both professionally and in terms of business development and creative development, align with your your project, then you can collaborate with somebody who's hungry for what you're trying to do. So I don't, for example, now I'm at a point where I don't have the capacity to produce micro budget features anymore because I'm a parent and I have a mortgage that I have to pay, and I have literally lost so much money in my life.
That's real.
Come in on that one. Nice one. Yeah.
Right. So I have no choice but to do work for hire because I have to make a living, and everybody has to make a living. I'm not, the situation when I started, I was in my early 20s. My financial situation was a little different. I was independent and I didn't have a dependent, child and all of that. So you kind of have to find the person out there or the company who is looking for what you're trying to do. And you guys can grow together. And that's how you're going to have a partner who's like hungry to do it. Because what you don't need is somebody who's already done it 5 times, because then they're going to not give you the time of day. They're not going to be able to give you the time of day because they're working on the next sort of phase of their own, company development. I think it's really important to try to befriend producers who are on your sort of level. Or maybe have done when Andrew and I did Sleeping Giant, I had actually produced one feature before, which was sort of my crash course in micro budget producing. It was called The Oxford Cure, directed by Calvin Thomas and Yana Lewis. And that film gave me just the Coles Notes of these are the challenges of making a feature film. So when I did Sleeping Giant, which is a little bit more complex and involved more financing and more moving parts, I had the kind of confidence that I needed to do that. And that's sort of how we've, danced through our career development together.
What you can, though, in the interim look for is mentorship. And I think people like Karen, she might not be able to produce your micro budget feature right now, but if you have a producing partner and the two of you say, hey, would you mind if we got on the phone once every couple of weeks and I just asked you some questions, that sort of thing. Something people want to help. It's just the amount that it's no, I'm sorry, but I can't give you a year of my life right now for free. I'm not in that kind of a spot. And so but I think you can still find, it's a pretty wonderful community that we have, if you're out and amongst it, you will meet people, whether it's at MDFS screenings or wherever, you're going to you find that community in Toronto and you tap into it. And I think people are pretty responsive to wanting to be able to help each other out.
So we're over our time, but I love that. And I love ending on that note. I think there's been quite a few questions about specifically, what should I have together? What should I have to pitch to someone? How do I approach someone? So Jackie, should we do one of these on that?
I guess. If that's what the people want.
I think that would be great. This was such a fantastic way to start off, you guys. You're both so kind and warm and been so generous with me and stuff, and so wonderful to work with you. And hopefully we'll be together in person again soon. So I'm going to kick out Andrew and Karen. Everybody give some claps on the comments or whatever you do. Thank you so much,
you guys.
You guys are brilliant and great.
Okay, ciao.
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye, guys.
Oh,
bye, Andrew. I don't know how to work this.
Look at that.
Oh my God, Jackie, over the time. Is the police going to come?
I don't think so.
That was so fun.
I'm going to wrap up if my life depended on it. So,
guys, this is where we ask Jackie,
also known as Jakey, to my friends.
Who is she? Who am I? Jackie, what were your biggest takeaways from this session today?
I'm glad you asked. As someone who is in my position, an emerging filmmaker, who is only, thus far a feature film is a dream and not yet a reality. I really liked what Karen and Andrew had to say about small crews and their perspective on that, and how you can lean into what you first could think of as a limitation and and it could turn out to be a chance for discovery, right?
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. And it's also good to know when you're trying, in this time of quarantine, when people are, are setting up their next projects and writing things, to write with that in mind. So that way, once you get to the point where you can shoot, it's already kind of built into your script, hopefully.
That's great. I agree. Yeah. I think that was a really good takeaway. And I think a takeaway for us from these comments is, we should look at pitching. And I feel like in terms of demystifying the process, how do you reach out to a producer? Who's the right one? I know I get asked that a lot as well.
Yeah.
And like, is there a formal pitch? Do people already know each other? Like Karen and Andrew did, or who's accepting, proposals, and how do you know that? So let's do a little looking into that ourselves. It's not COVID, guys. And as well, we do have one other thing, which is Jackie's Corner.
Jackie's Corner.
How are we going to do Jackie's Corner? What did we decide?
Well, Jackie's Corner is going to be a weekly video that I do with surprise guests of people who are considered emerging creatives in the film and television industry. We have our first video that's going to go up live right after this. So once we pop off of here, take a look at the Aikenhart one singular film.
Not multiple films.
Aikenhart Films Facebook and Instagram page, and you'll see who my inaugural guest of Jackie's Corner is.
I can't wait to see who it is. Are they as amazing as you?
Listen, even better if you can imagine.
Oh boy. Everything's gonna blow up. Everything's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
We didn't get to so many of these questions, but I think what's come from this is it's really helpful to us when you guys are able to comment and jump in, and we'll try as best as we can to bring it into the episode as it's going. But it's going to be half an hour. We're going to have to figure out how to do that a bit more tight. But we'll post Jackie's Corner next Wednesday. We're going to announce our next guest. We're kind of waiting to roll this all out because we have a bunch of industry people lined up, but we will reflect what you guys want to hear about and see, because this is for you. This is what we're doing with our time. Jackie and I are just volunteering to try and connect everybody and answer some questions. And please do reach out to either of us personally, and reach out to us through Aikenhart, all the things. I think that's it.
And if you have questions for the guests that we announce on Wednesday before Friday, feel free to share them with us, so that way we have them ready to go. And
Well, I think that's the first episode of
One and Done.
Skillin It.
I think we skilled it. I think we can officially say we skilled it.
Please post that emoji of an egg in a pan. The skillet emoji has really taken off. So I'm leaning into that. I don't care. Yeah. It sounds great. Skillin It. Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Coral.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Be safe. Bye.
Bye.